There is a magic found in the remnants of those who walked the earth before us. Our ancestors from all over the world left behind relics that more often than not made us question how life was lived. The magic these relics carry comes from the mystery of each discovery. The more that is learned through text and art, the more magical each item becomes. One of the most magical pieces of art comes from medieval Europe. It is called the Bayeux Tapestry. To this day, the mysteries it contains have yet to be agreed upon. Experts still debate as to the intent behind its creation. The tapestry's magic is that it holds not only beauty in its extensive detail, but it also walks a fine line between fact and fiction. It has cast a spell of confusion and intrigue upon all who study its beauty. The mystery of the Bayeux Tapestry is whether or not it contains true historical fact. If the victor controlled the story, mythical creatures are woven into the tale, and pivotal surrounding events are not even included. The tapestry, which is in fact not a tapestry at all, but wool embroidered on linen, transports the viewer back in time, to a place where successors fought for their right to sit on a throne, soldiers clad in shining armor charged into battle on horseback, and a broken oath was the worst stain on an individual's character. The story follows three powerful men: Edward, King of England, Duke William of Normandy, and Harold, an ealdorman of England. This ancient tale begins with King Edward of England sending Earl Harold across the sea to Normandy to meet with Duke William of the Normans. Unfortunately, on his journey across the sea, Earl Harold is knocked off course and winds up in the land of Count Wido, where he is taken captive. After messengers are sent back and forth between Duke William and Count Wido, eventually Earl Harold is released to Duke William. Once Duke William secured Earl Harold's safety, the journey back to Bayeux was not an easy one. Duke William, his army, and Earl Harold meet adversaries found in Dole and Conan and the men of Dinan. Duke William and his army can be seen in battle before they finally make it back to Bayeux. The next scenes show Earl Harold making an oath to Duke William on holy relics. Not long after, Earl Harold returns to England, where he can be seen paying homage to King Edward. The next section of tapestry shows the death of King Edward. The first depicts the burial of King Edward, who is being carried to the Church of St. Peter the Apostle, as the hand of God can be seen behind, reaching down from the heavens. The next section of the tapestry shows King Edward on his deathbed speaking to his faithful followers, and beneath that depicts his death. Following that, Earl Harold is seen being handed the crown of England, and there he claims it for himself. He can be seen at his coronation, where he's crowned King of England by the Archbishop's Digand. The next scene takes a moment to acknowledge citizens spotting a shooting star or comet of some sort going across the sky. Shortly after, messengers are depicted taking news back to Duke William of King Harold's rise to power. Immediately, Duke William orders ships to be built and supplied with weapons, wine, horses, chainmail, and other supplies needed for war once they're ready to sail. Duke William sends his newly built fleet to England. The army lands in Hastings, where the tapestry portrays Duke William's army feasting and preparing a moat for battle. A bishop can even be seen blessing the food. a messenger is seen coming to alert William that King Harold is on his way, and that is when the battle begins. Norman soldiers are seen lighting an English house on fire as a woman and boy flee. The tapestry pieces that follow show the battle play out. The Norman soldiers charge in to meet King Harold and his army. It is said that as the war continued, rumors spread that the Duke William was killed. Here he can be seen removing his helmet and turning to his men to motivate them to keep fighting. As the tapestry comes to an end, the soldiers of Normandy can be seen winning out the battle. King Harold is shown with an arrow through his eye, and the last scene is English soldiers retreating. Historians believe that there is one piece missing from the end of the tapestry, which is the coronation and therefore victory of William, now King of England. At first glance, the Bayeux Tapestry is a fantastical telling of history. It shows the story of an earl trying to cheat his way into power and going back on an oath he swore to Duke William, which would have been seen as a betrayal not only culturally, but to God and his angels, since Harold's oath was sworn over holy relics. There are accurate depictions of historical buildings and cultural details, such as hairstyles, which confirms attention to accuracy and detail throughout the work of art. It is commonly understood amongst Norman historians that King Edward was sending Earl Harold to tell Duke William that he was to be King Edward's successor when he passed. This would only justify King William the Conqueror's actions. The desire for the Norman artists at the time to immortalize the justification of their king's conquest of England does not discount the historical accuracy of the Bayeux Tapestry. The main source of eyewitnesses' accounts clearly comes from the victor, or in this case, the Norman's point of view, as it has been throughout the history of the world. To the victor goes the spoils. Not only does the victor get the spoils, but the victor gets to tell their side of history. So how reliable is this tapestry? According to historian Arthur Wright, there is no English account to set against the Norman version of the story. He argues that the only Old English or Anglo-Saxon chronicles that are documented are ones that were under the supervision of the Norman victors. Therefore, it could be easily argued that it was not an honest narrative of the situation. It is also a common opinion that Bishop Odo, the half-brother of William the Conqueror, was a commissioner of the tapestry. This is believed to be the case because he specifically is depicted twice, once at the side of Duke William, and again in battle holding a club. The tapestry would have been completed to be hung in his new cathedral of Bayeux, where it was first recorded hanging in display annually in the early 1400s. Though the story of the tapestry was spun to show William the Conqueror in a positive light, it does not mean the contents within the story are historically inaccurate. There are plenty of moments that are confirmed by other historical references to show the accuracy of the events unfolding. One such detail is a comet flying over England just after King Harold is crowned and sits on the throne. It was believed that this comet indicated impending doom upon King Harold and the people of England. It was placed there to show a sign that God and his angels were not happy with King Harold's betrayal of his oath to the future king and conqueror of England. Again, this would be justifying King William's actions, but it was a fact and an actual occurrence that is confirmed by other sources. In the upper and lower friezes, or borders of each scene, there are lots of detail which for the most part enhance the story, but there is a section where the artists use creatures from Aesop's fables. This is a very interesting addition. Does it imply that the artists are trying to say this was part of a fantastical tale? Or were they trying to imply that this was all a myth? Or were they trying to say that this was a lesson to be learned for future generations? Lastly, This chronicle of Norman and Anglo-Saxon history covers a great amount of story. However, there is one major event that was not included. The night before the Battle of Hastings, King Harold led his men into battle against an invading Scandinavian army. This would genuinely imply that the storyline follows that of eyewitness accounts of Norman artists and soldiers. If this was a neutral telling of history, those compiling the information would not have left out such a pivotal moment in history. Clearly, the immortalization of the victory of the conquest of England was more important than gathering all of the facts. That being said, leaving out a part of history does not discount the other events being portrayed as fiction. It just again shows a one-sided perspective of the story. When looking at the tapestry as a whole, it is quite clear that it is a good depiction of historical events. Even in the fine details, there are glimpses of culture which add insight into the history of the Norman and Anglo-Saxon characters depicted. Whether or not King William the Conqueror was correct or justified in his invasion of England is irrelevant. No one piece of history should be taken as the whole truth. However, the tapestry is clearly supported by historical accounts that happened around the same time. There will always be a magic interwoven into the Bayeux tapestry, and historians will continue to study and debate its nature and the fine details. But its beauty and relevance will never fade away.